Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey. Thanks for joining me again today. Today I have another great guest. We are here today with Alex Grigorian, who is the CEO of Immortalia, and we're going to tell you all about what Immortalia is. It's a wonderful way to leave a legacy for your children and grandchildren and whoever else is meaningful to you, should you not be on this earth any longer. Did I get that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So before we get started on talking about Immortalia, let's talk about Alex. Who are you? How did you get involved in this? What's your background? All that good stuff.
Thank you, Jean. My name is Alex Grigorian, and I have been thinking about the Immortalia as a concept for many, many years. I've been in the corporate world for over 2 decades. And so when I had a chance to go on my own and develop the product, one of the products was Immortalia, which was something that I've thought about for over a decade, as I indicated before. And the concept came, I was fortunate enough to meet all my 4 grandparents and my 2 parents. Until my
That is fortunate.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. And until my teenage years when, they're now all past. And now having 2 children of my own, the idea of me not knowing what was my grandfather's favorite color or was my grandmother lefty or righty, right, and not being able to convey that message, I have always thought, how could I circumvent the death in double quotes, which in my view, though, death is the being forgotten by people who you loved. Mm-hmm. And, we've heard stories, people going to Ellis Island and finding a signature of their great-great-granddad, mm-hmm. and that's emotional. Imagine, if you will, to hear a living voice of your grandfather, great-grandfather, grandmother, great-grandmother, and in their own words, in their own emotions, in their own view. And the idea for Immortalia came from there. So this is a first step into basically creating this technological product, mm-hmm. per se, to capture the living voice, video, and for generations to come.
And truly, kids get a sense of self with more connection to where they came from. And it adds confidence, and it adds a knowing of who you are and where you're from. And we lose that in our generations now because we're all upwardly mobile and people aren't close. And I think it's a wonderful thing, not just to leave the legacy, but the gift that you're giving the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren, to give a piece of, this is who started it all. This is where you come from. This is how wonderful she was. And you didn't know her, but this is what solidifies our family, your DNA, who you are, how you were made. It's a wonderful thing to give to a child.
Jean, you're spot on. There is a saying by somebody famous, not me. I'm plagiarizing. It's that kids are our voices to the times we will never see. Right? I'm hoping that Immortalia will become an instrument that will capture our voice and other video and etc. But our voice for generations, for people who love us but we will never meet. Mm-hmm. So what you were indicating, kids knowing who they come from, right? Judging by my not so southern accent.
Yeah.
I'm a foreigner, right? I came from a country, used to be Soviet Union, called Armenia now.
Oh, okay.
And the generational gap for my kids who are born and raised American, I love America, best country in the world, for them to relate to the times of my grandparents, First World War, Second World War, Soviet Union.
And it doesn't even matter what country. Really.
Absolutely.
The simpleness,
yeah.
the character of generations past.
Sure.
I miss that character today. We're losing that. Any little thing can become a big thing to impart on our generations to come. And we need a huge shift
I totally agree with you. We have, on day-to-day basis, we have emotions that we go through, and we want to capture them. We want to convey them. And I'm hoping that Immortalia is a first step, and it will develop further in that direction. Sometimes people say a photograph is better than 1,000 words. And I don't know if I agree with that, because there is a story behind that photograph. Mm-hmm. There is a story behind that family. You know, a mom is cooking in the kitchen and the kids are running around the house, and dad just came home and the photographer says, hey, come on, let's get together for a Christmas photo, right? And everybody gets together at a moment in time, but what was behind is not captured. So maybe hovering Immortalia product over a photograph and telling the story. We have an album between me and my wife, probably several albums of black and white photos. I'm hoping to have an Immortalia service soon enough where you can send your family photos, videos, VHS tapes, if you're old enough to remember.
Yeah.
Digital photography, and to create some kind of a catalog, chronology of life, where we are missing that. What is happening today in this pseudo-social world, what is called social, which is anything but social because you're sitting in front of a screen, we're losing that social touch between true people, generational touch, right? Grandfather, grandmother, great-grand. I call it a phenomenon of a fourth generation. Some of us fortunate enough to know their parents, their grandparents, but great-grandparents, it kind of fades away. Mm-hmm. Maybe we know the name, maybe we know of a story or two, but reality is we just don't know who they are. And I feel that with all the advances that we've done in the current day and age.
And we're seeing that. You know, I was just trying to look up, I couldn't remember the guy's last name, but I read the book, The Last Lecture. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, of course.
By Randy Pausch.
Yep.
And I had to look it up because I couldn't remember his last name. But that was very impactful to me. Mm-hmm. And it's much like what you're doing through Immortalia.
Right.
And that is, he wants to impart wisdom on people left behind because he's got borrowed time on Earth.
Right.
This was a while ago. He's since passed. And so what you're doing, because like you said, when you look at a picture, you can suppose the story behind it, right?
Right.
And sometimes that's a good thing because you can romanticize it and suppose whatever you want and be confident in who you are and where you came from just by looking at that picture. But to make that come alive, you know, I think about my father. He was a man of great character. Just great character. Mm-hmm. He would give to anybody off the street that he saw was hurting, no matter what he had, and he didn't have a whole lot. He would work hard, and he would instill confidence in his children. No matter what we did, he was pushing us to do better and praising us for the work that we did. And how fortunate was I to grow up with a man like that.
Yep.
And I lost him when my children were 6 and 3. Mm-hmm. And they remember him.
Yep.
But they don't really know him. And if I could have imparted his character, what a loss to my kids not to grow up with that man's influence.
Totally.
So I love what you're doing. So let's talk about your product and how it works.
Sure. So Immortalia today, it's a product that it's absolutely free, 100% free, because I totally believe into the idea of itself. So it's not about for profit or for money. So it can be downloaded for iPad or iPhone currently. The Android version is coming very, very soon, probably in less than a month. And it's
so this is a newer product.
It is a new
When
product.
did it hit the market?
It hit the market earlier this year, but it was kind of in a trial period.
So we're cutting edge here at Better Living.
Absolutely. Bleeding edge.
Okay.
And the product itself broken up into 9+1, and I'll explain the +1, 9 sections, which are basically kind of the chronology of life. So the basic facts, childhood, adolescence, and then areas like love, regrets. And the +1 is the area where you can create your own custom questions that are bespoke to you, because we're all different.
It's important to you that you want to instill on your loved ones. That's great.
So in a section, just to give an example of a question, in the basic facts, right? What's your name and why were you named that, right? And then you can self-record or somebody help you with a recording of that. And what we've done, there are about 70 questions that were carefully designed and developed to invoke that moment in time. So it would be, how's your parenting style different from your parents? When was your first kiss? what's your biggest regret?
Aw.
And so different questions, but they all trigger that synapse in a head to convey, to capture truly person's self for
But
generations
they're
to come.
not typing this. They're talking
They're
this.
talking into it.
So you can hear
it can
their
be
voice
audio, it can be
inflection.
video. Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
And the custom questions, they might be more specific to, the patriarch of the family or the mom who she wants to have something. Let me tell you the story the day when, something that is very unique to the person. So it's been downloaded many, many times, and we're seeing a lot of active users. And the point of this is to preserve it forever. And when I say forever, people would say, how do you know what technology will be 50 years from now? And the answer is, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But what I know about technology, and I have, over 25 years in technology background.
Yeah, what you came from the corporate world for
I
decades.
have. I have.
Where did you work? What was your
My
role?
last employment was with a company called IHG, Intercontinental Hotels Group,
okay.
largest hotel chain in the world, which has many brands, including Intercontinental, Crown Plaza, Holiday Inn, Holiday Inn Express, and others. And my role there was Senior Vice President of Global Technology.
Okay.
And I was there for 6 years. I loved it. Before that, I was with Starwood Hotels and Resorts up in New York, Connecticut. And prior to that, I was a consultant for years and years in reinsurance, financial, and other
So
fields.
you have a long-term background in technology.
I
This
do.
makes sense.
I do. This makes sense. I hope that technology approach taken with Immortalia product will be the one that will carry through the generations. That's one. And second, I also believe the cause so passionately myself that I will do my very best to ensure that this product stays around for a long, 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 long time, because
I'm downloading it, and I want to talk about it and try
Sure.
to help people visualize it. It's taking just a minute. But while I'm waiting, and I should have done that before you came in today. I'm sorry. While I'm waiting, he's got it right here. Okay, so I can play while you're talking. You mentioned it's free. So how do you make money on all this work that you're doing?
I don't.
Okay.
This is, as I said, the purpose of this product is not to make money, but to
Okay.
solve a need that I truly believe in. I do have some advisory service firm on the side that I work with some of the companies around Atlanta. So this product, other products that have been developed on a platform of Immortalia, one of them, I'll give you an example. I've teamed up with the Chief Executive Officer of Susan G. Komen Foundation of Atlanta, Katie. And together we've developed a product called Common Stories on the Immortalia platform, where it helped people who participated in the annual 5K run for breast cancer awareness, for them to capture their story and then to be shared amongst the people who participated. So we've had survivors and co-survivors, and they were telling why they run. My friend Roger, right? He was running for his daughter Chrissy, and he told his story. Chrissy is she's a fantastic person. She's a survivor. She's doing fantastically well. But Roger, he's running for the marathon. He shared his story, and that has all been captured together. And people who would go to Susan G. Komen website, they could see those videos, and they were very inspirational. So, the Immortalia platform is not the reason for me to make money or whatever. It's free. It's to solve a need that I truly believe in.
I love that. I'm just going through your app, and I'm not real technologically savvy. I wouldn't say it's one of my strengths, and it's very easy to sift through here. And you have it broken down into periods of life. So you go to one area, it's called early childhood, then adolescence, then profession, love, parenthood, life lessons. Love that. Quirky questions. Let's go to quirky questions. What's your favorite color? If you were an animal, what would you be? What would you like to hear at the pearly gates? That's just wonderful.
Thank you.
Fun stuff. And it really brings out the character. Again, going back to that. But what I love here is he's got a whole section on profession. Did you ever quit a job out of frustration or anger? And then you just hit the little arrow, and there you are, ready to get your picture taken and talk into it. You could really impart quite a bit of wisdom into your future generations, or whoever it is that you're making this for.
Sure.
And I love what you said about Susan G. Komen, because that's the 3-day walk here in Atlanta and all over. My friend is a breast cancer survivor. When I first met her, when I first moved to Atlanta, back in 2006, she did that 3-day walk as a medical helper in the medical tent.
Right.
She couldn't do the 3 days. But lots of friends did the 3 days. When she came back, when you go through something that cathartic,
Yep.
you talk about it in a way that you can't capture now 5 years later. The way that she almost had to talk about her experience, it's like giving birth. You have
Yep.
to talk about how this baby was brought into the world, and you have so much wisdom, so much energy, no matter what you're going through. It could be a terrible trauma, and that energy can impart wisdom too. You know, this is awful, this is tough, but this is what I'm going to do. So I love that you're able to capture in the moment.
Right.
So when you go to these sections, once you record one thing,
Yep.
let's just say another life event occurs and you're like, you know what, I want to go back to that question because I have something really prophetic to say.
Yep.
Can you record more than one time, or is that going to record over what you already have there?
Currently, we don't have the ability to add to the same question. You can re-record.
Okay.
However, that is on the product
It
development
is.
roadmap.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm getting
because
ahead.
today, no, you're absolutely right. Because today, the answer to my biggest regret in life may be different what it would be 10 years from now.
Right.
Right? So you're absolutely right. So that is on our product roadmap. And Jean, you said it so well that each person, going through experiences of life, childbirth, going through a difficult period of life, fighting a disease or something positive. The point is, we are all a treasure chest of stories. Each individual. When we say the word legacy, it sounds a little bit of a big word.
It's like vague.
I'm not Steve
Big.
Jobs. I'm
What does
not
that
going to
mean?
leave
Yeah.
a legacy. That's not about that. That's not. Think about the legacy you would have gotten to hear the story of your great grandfather or great grandmother. I've said this before, and this may sound a little off color.
Or even neighbor who's taking you under their wing.
Sure.
It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And I've said it, and I said maybe a little off color, but I said I would donate a kidney without thinking twice to have right now Immortalia for my mom or for my dad. It's for me. It's for my kids, for my grandkids, and it is quite emotional for me because the stories the life stories, that life experiences that we go through in life, they're lost. Because our lifespan, no matter how long it is, 100 or 120 years, it's a blip.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's gone, right? And from dust to dust. And then what we're trying to do with this is not to have it gone. Because I've said this before, and this may be a little bit funny or not, but, can we say that Mozart is dead or Beethoven is dead? Or Shakespeare, because they're being played today. They're alive. They're
society.
alive. Absolutely.
Right. They're impacting. And that's what I think about this world. I don't mean to cut you off,
No,
but
please.
It's troubling. All of these wars and attacks and hatred and evil. And I wish we could go back several generations to say, this is what we all lived for, and impart that on people. And we lose a piece of that with every generation. I truly believe we are. We're losing a piece of that honor and pride and love. And I just wish someone could just come back and say, you are born of me.
Yes.
And this is how hard I worked for your grandmother.
Yep.
And this is what I instilled in her. And don't let outside influences affect you.
Right.
This is what our family's all about. Here are our core principles. Here are our core ethics. Here's our core morality. And I think the world has gotten tougher and tougher and tougher, and outside influences are influencing our inner souls more and more and more. And if we could just pull more from that cement of which is our family tree, I think that we could do a lot more to help this world. I love this. This is a wonderful product.
Thank you very much. And you're absolutely right. Today's world, not only TV and proverbial social world on the internet, it is influencing so much. The external stimulants and influencers are so much bigger than our core, as you said it, is our family DNA. And I don't mean this in a biological, but the convictions that the great grandfather, great grandmother, what they've put in for us to be where we are, who we are, where we are, and what we should be, and should we convey to our kids.
You want to live up to that person.
Absolutely.
You are just like your grandmother.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I don't know where I got you. You're not like me, but you're just like my mom.
Yeah.
And if I could have heard more about that, well, then I want to live up to her legacy. I want to live up to who she was. I want to do even better than who she was.
It's interesting. You're so right, Jean. You know, people today use ancestry and ancestry-like tools, which are, I'm sure, wonderful, right? Trying to find their generations back. You know, what about our posterity, our generations to come? What are we doing for them? Right. And Immortalia is just a tool. I'm hoping there will be many others. Mm-hmm. It's not exclusivity or what have you. It's more around having ability for us to convey something for our generations to come, for our posterity.
Yeah, I was just reading some questions. I got a little distracted. I love this one. When in your life was money tight, and when in your life was money plentiful? Because we know as we age, not everything stays constant and the same. You have trials and tribulations, and you have great times.
Yep.
And tend to splurge during those great times,
Sure.
not realizing they're not going to last forever. And to impart that kind of wisdom on your children and grandchildren is great. Just to keep on the same topic that we're talking about, but I love some of these questions that you have in here. They're thought-provoking.
Thank you very much. And that was the truly intent behind the questions, to provoke the thought, to go back at that moment in time, right? When was your first kiss? You travel back and you tell the story. What's your biggest regret? There was a person, I believe her name was Bronnie Wire from Australia. She captured people's she was looking after people who were like in a hospice environment, who were dying, and she was capturing their regrets. And then I believe she wrote a book called Biggest Regrets. And what surprised me were the top 2 regrets of all the people, dozens and dozens of people who she cared for. Number 2 regret was not surprising, other than it wasn't number 1. Number 2 regret was, across men and women who were dying, was, I wish I didn't work so hard, which translates to spend more time with friends and family, right? And that was not a surprising regret. I was surprised it was number 2. Number 1 regret was so surprising to me, which was, I wish I became someone I wanted to, not what others expected of me. And that's a very painful regret to have when you're on your deathbed.
I want to talk more about that, because that's what I'm trying to get at, and I'm not explaining very well. Knowing your true self and the help of family, because you have their DNA, you might think more about it if you get that. But we do have to take a quick break. So we'll be right back. And when we come back, I want to talk more about some of your sections. And I want to start off with that topic right there. So hang with us. We'll be right back, folks. Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey. Thanks for sticking with us. I'm Jean Pete, and I'm still here with Alex Grigorian. And again, Alex is the CEO of Immortalia.
Correct.
Before the break, we were talking about what Immortalia is, what his background is, what his passion is, and how this is such a great product for us folks in the world. After decades working for a large company in the United States with an IT background, Alex is passionate about bringing a product like this where generations can leave legacies for our future generations. So he has created this company, and he has created this product, which is free and downloadable as an app.
Correct.
On iPhone and Apple products, and you're working on Android. Is that right?
That's correct.
And I'm so proud of myself, because I am not technologically savvy, and I figured that out.
You sounded better than I could. And just simply enough, if one could go to Immortalia.com website, or just search for Immortalia in Apple Store, App Store. But in Immortalia.com, it has a very easy to navigate website, and then click to download. It's simple, and the Android platform is coming within, by the end of the year, we'll have the Android platform as well. Okay,
and that's Immortalia, Immortalia.com. And it was very easy, because while you were talking to me in the first half hour of the show, I just kind of went to the App Store, typed in Immortalia, forgot my password, had to type it a couple times, and then it's already on my phone. So that's wonderful. And, as someone who's worked in home care and hospice care for over a decade, I think it might even be going on 2, this is a wonderful product because we are so blessed. I go to these cocktail parties or dinner parties or whatever, wherever I am socially, and they say, oh, what do you do? And if I said I worked in hospice, it's a good conversation stopper. Or people start telling you about experiences that they had. And we in this industry are so blessed. It's not a tough job. It's such a thankful job. People are wonderful to us. We actually get to help folks be more comfortable and have time with their loved ones to talk about their life and make memories, that they're in an appreciative mode. How wonderful is that? That's a blessing to any of us that work in hospice. But we see on a daily basis the gifts of the older grandparent who is imparting wisdom on the son or daughter and grandchildren and trying to get that wisdom out to them. And it's been difficult to capture that. And so we just tried videoing, and there's lots of different things that folks are doing now, thankful to technology. But I love that Immortalia is free. And I love how easy it is to use. I love you just click it, and there's your camera on your phone, and you can just say, hey, I just wanted to talk to you today because this happened, and I want you to remember this. This is important. So before the break, we were talking about true self. And I cut you off.
No, you did not. You did not.
So I want you to tell me again what you were about to say there, because I think this is the crux of the matter.
Yeah. Having read about the biggest regret amongst men and women who passed on being this: I wish I became someone I always wanted to, not what others expected of me. That's a very painful regret to go through, because that's something that we can control, we should control. But as you said before, Gene, there are especially now, there are so many external influencers on our life that core that our parents, our grandparents, and generations behind them, that has been instilled in us to be who we should, I'm not sure is the should is the right word, but who we were designed to be by God and by them, right? We may miss it because we're so busy with our social lives, our Facebooks, Twitters, and many, many other lives, and being influenced by all the information on TV or on the internet.
Our worries, our fears, our internal messages that are coming into our head from outside influences.
Yep. And we miss who we truly wanted to become. And then when we're, at that time when we're on our deathbed, whenever that is, and we realize, say, I wish I become that, right? And so here in Immortalia, there's a section on regrets, which has several questions, but one of them being, what's your biggest regret? And the biggest regret doesn't have to be necessarily something earth-shattering, but it really brings out the genuine person who she truly is. And then imagine, if you will, your or somebody else's child's grandchild is now listening, watching, hearing this. Where before there would be it would be something out of, unless you had a time machine, which I haven't.
Can you connect these together with different people and families? Like, I'm thinking about you. You're from Armenia.
Yep.
Can you have your grandmother, who might still be there, let's just say, in Armenia doing this, and then connect it to yours, and then future generations see, like, the aunts and the uncles and the grandparents and all of these family members?
I wish this was staged, Gene, because you're hitting on the key milestone on our product roadmap for 2016. Today, I can record a question and then send a copy of it, or basically send me, meaning it will be a link on immortalia.com/ and there'll be a link. Send it to my wife, send it to my kids, to my friends. What we're doing in the first quarter of 2016, we're going to have inviting somebody into your Immortalia. So for instance, right, today, I'm talking about I'm recording my big regret, and that'll be about my ability to play tennis. So what I can do is I
want to be able to sing. You don't want me singing on this show, let me tell you. A
couple of my friends saying, hey, me a little bit about how I play tennis, or on a more serious, on the love life, right? It's one thing I'm telling the story, but it will add so much more color if my wife contributes to it, if my kids contribute to it, or if I was fortunate enough, my parents, if they were alive, they will tell the story about how they felt when I first time walked in with my wife to be to our house when they met. So now by inviting others into your Immortalia, it adds so much more color.
That's
and
cool.
Then next after
you
that,
get the different perspectives of the same story. That's cool. Love
absolutely.
that.
And
as you're talking, we've been talking about leaving a legacy. Here I am cutting him off again, but I get a little passionate too. Sorry.
I love it.
As you're talking, I'm thinking, okay, we're talking about the benefits to the future generations and the legacy left behind, but there's a huge benefit here we haven't even talked about. Here we are going through life, trying to make something of our career, trying to be a great parent, make something of our personal life, trying to be successful in all areas of life. Life, love, relationships, social relationships, community involvement, everything. How great is it to go through this exercise and think about these questions as someone who's a work in progress?
Yep.
Our time, we're not even thinking about our time being limited yet.
Right.
And then putting it down and then going back to it a little later and saying, what did I say my biggest regret was?
Yep.
What did I say happened the last time money was tight?
Yep.
What are my life lessons? What are my quirky answers? Am I still in line with who I thought I was back then? Where's my growth? And what do I want to do now? This is a great lesson for every single one of us to go through, no matter what the age. And even our children, our teenagers. What do I want in life? Mm-hmm. What are my goals? What do I hope for? And then they can go back and revisit it after they graduate college. There's the benefits abound, I can see.
You're spot on, Jean, again. One time I was being interviewed a couple months ago on the Immortalia product, and the interviewer, I think it was from France, it was over a phone, he said, who you're competing with? And I gave him as genuine answer as I said, I'm competing with autobiography, right? And most of us, will not be, Winston Churchill's or Steve Jobs's for our autobiography to be written or helped with. At best, we have some notes, we have some notebooks that we capture, and then they sort of kind of sometimes vanish, right? Here, what you're saying is kind of, we may have an ongoing live autobiography as we're capturing it. Mm-hmm. Then later on, 10 years from now, I may go back and say, oh, that's right, I was on that radio show with Jean. And now suddenly I remember, because now I capture the moment, how the emotion of the moment, as passionate as you and I are about the subject, right? Suddenly, 10 years from now, I say, I forgot about that. And so it is a kind of a living and breathing autobiography that, whenever the end is, will be captured for now our children, our grandchildren. And my thought, I have a baby daughter and baby boy, for their grandchild to have access to my Immortalia, that keeps me going. Mm-hmm. Because now suddenly they would never have. They would see some notes, some photographs. But I, as I said it earlier, Gene, I'm sorry for repeating myself, I call it the fourth generation phenomenon, where at that point, at the fourth generation, the memory starts going away. Because kids remember parents, grandkids remember great-grand, that just kind of fades. Mm-hmm. And I just don't want that to happen anymore. So now, to your original point, yes, and then we can go back and say, I was in 20s. And my biggest regret was that.
Right. Look at how much I've grown, or what would I have done differently now? How could I have learned from that? I'm so blessed. I say it often to do this show because I get schooling from experts in their field for free. I get to learn so much about so many different topics, whether it's a doctor talking about a disease or someone like you talking about a great product that they're excited about, or a service that's offered to seniors, or whatever it is. And in my years of doing this, what I've come to realize is so many topics, no matter what I'm talking about, a product, a service, a disease, a place, a hospital and how that works, a nursing home, whatever. It all comes down to, this is the vessel that we were given when we were placed on this earth as an infant. This is our body, this is our soul, this is our mind, and take care of it. Do the best you can to keep it healthy in an emotional, physical, spiritual, psychological manner. Be true to yourself. Be your best self. And so everything comes down to take care of your body by eating well and exercising and drinking a lot of water. Take care of your mind by giving yourself those positive messages and keeping yourself busy so that you don't lose some of those connections. Taking care of your spiritual, emotional, psychological self by doing things like this. And so I love anything that helps us all be as healthy as possible and as true to ourselves as possible, because there's a book, well, it's like the self-fulfilling prophecy. I think it's called The Secret. And the secret is, you know, what you tell yourself is more likely to come true. And, you know, I know somebody who's going through a tough time right now, and it's come out that there was a codependence between the children and the mother. Okay. And so then the mother died, and they don't know how to function. Because the person that they always ran to and were allowed to fall apart is no longer there to pick them up. And we can talk a whole show about how that was great for both at the time, but it's not working for the loved ones left behind. My conversation with them yesterday was, look, you have to change the messages that you're putting into your head. The messages that you're putting into your mind and your body and everything, every part of you is reading, is that you are helpless, you are a victim, and you can't do whatever it is you need to do to keep going and be the powerful person that you are because somebody else used to do that for you. Change the messages. Tell yourself, and I know I'm getting a little off topic, but it is related to your product. Tell yourself those things that make you be true to yourself so you can be your best self. And I can see your product helping people do that as well. Really, like, I just don't want to put a boundary on this as a legacy left behind for others. This can be very useful for you in the moment as an individual using it.
Absolutely, Jean. You mentioned the book by, I think it's Rhonda Burns, The Secret. And the original book was, I think, late 1800s by James Allen. It was called As a Man Thinketh. And the idea is whatever you think, your thoughts will become your future. Your thoughts actually materialize. They don't happen and disappear. So you're perfectly right about what we put in our body, food, drinks, what we put in our mind, it stays with us. It becomes, and whatever is in our mind sometimes is more important than even, if we had some garbage food, it digests, it's gone. But what's in our mind, it can stay there it rents a place for free in our mind. And if it's something negative, it stays with us. And you're so perfectly right that what we think it's very, very important, because every single one of us can say, and only us can say, I am. No one else can say, I am for me. No one else can say, I am for you. So whatever you say, I am abundant, I am healthy, I am wealthy. And if those are the thoughts in one's head, they will be true. If you're saying, I am unhappy, I am unfortunate, then it might just materialize itself in such a way. And we're not off the product, because that's the
we're not.
We're not at all.
Because so exactly your product.
Because what it's trying to do, Immortalia, and I'm not trying this, and this is not a cheap way of trying to bring it back, but it's trying to capture individuals' true self, who you truly are. Who am I? I am, and then you answer the questions. And as we mentioned before, imagine now you're answering I am, and you're telling the story how you met your significant other. Then, as part of your Immortalia, your significant other contributes as well. Your friends who knew before you met or when you met, and they contribute. And now suddenly you have this complete picture of an individual, and then you go back.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
what a gift.
Thank you.
Really, that's a true gift to give somebody, because you may be going through a tough time. And then you put all kinds of negative messages in yourself. Oh, I could have done this. I shouldn't have done this. I did this wrong. This is why I'm in this spot today. Why do I always do this? Blah, blah, blah. And then to be able to pick this up and say, what did my parents tell me I was all about? What did my friends tell me I was all about? What do my neighbors think? What are my teachers saying? Affirmation, reaffirmation of who you think you are and what others agree with. And then not only that, but the potential others see in you.
Yep.
You can read that and remind and put those messages into you as well.
You're so right. I tell my kids sometimes, actually more than sometimes, they will attest to it. I wish you could see yourself for one moment through my eyes. Mm-hmm. Right? Because to me, they're perfect. Yes, they have their, but they're perfect. I wish you could see yourself through my eyes, and here an ability to see yourself through your eyes, maybe down the road. You see yourself, 10 years from now through your eyes of when you were in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. It's an interesting concept. And I'm, right now we're talking about Immortalia, but I'm hoping there will be other products. There will be other ideas, other thoughts.
I just want so many more questions on here. My mind is spinning so far. I want to see I am on here. I want to see I wish to be on here. I want to see I'm most proud of on here. And maybe it is. I haven't looked through the whole site.
And if you scroll down all the way right below regrets, you will see create your own. And as you go to the section where you can create your own question, you literally can create your own question. Mm-hmm. They are very bespoke. They're very tailored for you because your life is different from mine.
And you can put as many as you want in there?
As many as you wish.
Okay, well, that's cool. Well, then there you go. You have it. That's great. So I know, it's almost like psychology today.
Yep.
Really. But in this world, I have to look for hopeful, positivity, things that we can instill on our current generation and our future generation. I'm so certain that I can't control gun violence. Yep. I can't control mental illness. I can't control laws that are passed that I disagree with. But what I can control is the peace and love and importance and hope and positivity for the people that surround my little world. Mm-hmm. And then if every one of us, this is so idealistic, but really we got to get back to basics.
Yep.
And everybody just has to do what they can in their little world, and hopefully it will multiply.
Absolutely.
And this is a great tool for each and every one of us to do that.
This tool will help us put a right light on ourselves. Right light was a bit a mouthful, but who am I? I mean, what was the section? Let's just take a parenthood, right? How many children do you have? Okay, I have two children. How did you feel about raising your children? What was the best part, the hardest part? And each one of us have had their own hardships, their own happy moments, their own difficulties, and grounding ourselves into our own life, our own priorities, our own what has been instilled in us by our parents, grandparents, and what we're trying to instill into our children and grandchildren. That's the important part. Mm-hmm. Not the external world of, at that moment in time, we read something on news, and you're so right. We had this unfortunate events, recently, and gun violence and all that. We can't control that. Mm-hmm. We just can't. It's out of our control. We can't control many other things, but what we can control is what kind of messages we put in our heads, what kind of messages we put into our children, grandchildren, and then having Immortalia as a platform to potentially capture the true self, and then people, you seeing it, your children seeing it, your friends seeing it, your neighbors. I was talking to a friend of mine. I said, it will be interesting. 4 generations below, when my great grandchild meets your great grandchild, and then they see our Immortalia as connected.
That's so cool.
That'll be so cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I see this. My brain is just going a mile a minute right now because I know it's a new product, and I'm already telling you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this, and it's in the works and all of that. But it's also reminding me of business. And there's lots of books out there on business and leadership and motivation and this and that and the other thing. But how wonderful it would be to have some kind of a leadership connection here where a whole lot of great leaders just impart a couple of minutes of their wisdom on a certain question. So here's a question, and you have the Lee Iacocca's and the Oprah Winfrey's and all of these great people with great character that you think about imparting their wisdom on a little snippet where they're talking to you, hey, this is what I did in this situation. This is what you need to look out for, whatever. And I'm talking about Lee Iacocca and Oprah Winfrey. It can be a lot smaller than that because we have some wonderful, smart. Yep. So I just think this is just the beginning.
It is. It truly is.
Of something that could be a tremendous asset to so many different parts of our world and our lives.
Absolutely. We've thought, Jean, this is not staged at all, but you really are hitting on our product roadmap. In 2016, some of the thoughts we have on Immortalia platform, one was around leadership topic, because as you said, we have a wonderful program in Atlanta called LeaderCast, where it's one annually a year. People come and it's usually Andy Stanley opens up, one of the senior pastor for North Point Ministries, and it's brilliant to have a platform where you can have some of those questions, maybe more tailored for general audience, being answered by some of leaders that are currently around, and then have it accessible by many. We've also thought, just to prove that this is not staged, people find themselves drawn to religion, right? Mm-hmm. And having a platform based on Immortalia, what drew you,
I mean, there's so many things.
There are so many ways to apply this.
Or even interpretations. If you're reading your Bible.
Yep.
And this is a verse, and this is how one person interprets it, another person, and you don't have to go find 16 different books.
Sure,
and it's all in one place. Yep. So everything, business, religion, relationships, family, anything.
Right. Right.
So anyway, thank you for your passion. Thank you for providing this as a free service to folks. I look forward to all of the future enhancements and watching this grow and become even greater and greater. And really for the contribution, I work in hospice for a reason. I worked in the financial industry for a long, long time. And I am fed by the soul and the wisdom that we get from folks whose time is limited. And the blessings that I have in helping in my little tiny way make somebody's end of life better.
Yeah. And
anything that helps promote better life for our future, I'm on board. And this is something, and this is free, and this is just the beginning.
Thank you, Jean. And thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for having me on your show. But truly, thank you.
Thank you. And again, they have a website. It's www.immortalia.com. That's IMMORTALIA. Or you can just go right to the app on the iPhone and pretty soon on the Android and just type it in and download the app. It took me all of 1 minute.
Thank you very much.
I'm Jean Pete. Have a great week. I'm Jeannie Pete. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day and week ahead. And listen here, same time next week and every week. Homestead Hope Foundation is your resource for a healthy life. God bless.